All right. Okay. So there's this thing about, well, I will never be considered in the dance world as simply a dancer. I will always be looked at as an anomaly. I cannot be compared. I can't be sort of set next to any of these other whatever great dancers that might be out there that, you know, are sort of the hallmarks of dance, you know.
You're saying that.
I'm saying that. I'm saying that because that's how that's how I experienced, you know, the dance world, you know, is they supposedly have this big focus on dance and the body and all of that, but the reality is that, you know, they're interested in the perfect body.
Known as the Crutch Master, and he surprised audiences all across the world.
This is something I guarantee you have never seen before. This is Bill Shannon, who is the Crutch Master, and his buddies back here, who are the Step Fiends, direct from New York City.
The show is called The Art of Weightlessness. It's sponsored by the Dance Umbrella, and Bill Shannon defies gravity with the help of his crutches.
Get down to the studio at the Opera House because there's an amazing performer from Brooklyn coming out called Bill Shannon. Tonight's called Spatial Theory.
I've never seen anything like this. I was looking at the videotape yesterday and I was amazed.
His art sometimes capitalizes on interactions with others.
Dancing around just like you have no way. And it's sort of a funky dance routine too. How in the world does it come about?
Well, the style is a hybrid. It's a combination of skateboarding, being on cartoons.
Are we ready? What's going on? I feel like I'm treading water. Are we going? This way? Okay. Let's go get a rental.
I want to sit in the back.
Okay.
I want to sit in the back.
Mile, keep right toward I-275 north in Tampa.
It's kind of blindsided me, like, oh yeah, Perthes camp, cool. And like, okay, you're gonna meet a bunch of kids in Perthes, and I'm like, oh, wait a second.
Okay, it's gonna be right on beat, okay? 3, 2, 1, jump!
Turn left to stay on Camp Florida Road, then your destination will be on the right.
It's really emotional for me because I'm gonna have this moment of like seeing kids living their life at that age in the way that I lived my life at that age, which is really tough, you know? I'm already gonna cry just thinking about it. It's something that's really a hard time in my life, you know?
When Bill was born, Rand and I were both activists.
I had come of age basically on the doorstep of the civil rights movement in Nashville. When I was in the peace movement, a whole variety and spectrum of organizations in the women's movement.
My parents were like all about humanitarianism and like helping the steel workers and helping the unemployed and ending, you know, apartheid.
I grew up with the smell of permanent markers on banners, going door to door, delivering leaflets. The big picture was we can do better as human beings, and we can treat each other better, and we can have a better world.
As a toddler, Bill, he loved speed. He loved things like big wheels going down steep hills and climbing trees and jumping out of them. Sometimes after he had been running around a lot, he would limp. So I took him to a doctor, and he came in and told me he has Legg-Perthes disease. And I said, I've never heard of that. I'm a nurse, you know, but I never heard of it. It's a developing deformation of the head of the femur, which is normally like a rounded, very smooth, cartilage-covered ball that fits into a socket very smoothly and rotates. And in his case, the head of the femur had no circulation, and it becomes necrotic, basically, sort of rotten, and becomes misshapen.
All the doctors in Pittsburgh wanted to operate.
We talked about subjecting a 4-year-old to multiple surgeries. I'm an anesthetist. I work in a major medical center, and I know what the aftermath can be if you don't have a good result. Major pain, major risk of infection. There's the danger of any kind of mishap, a blood clot, you know, things happen to people all the time in surgery. It's kind of scary, you know.
And that's when I started researching metallurgy of these implants. And so all these things that they've been putting in people's hips, you know, deteriorate, and the implant kills the bone. I was like, this is not going to happen, you know, not for an active kid. It's not. Rand talked to so many doctors until she finally found a doctor that said, you know, there's an alternative, which is the brace.
It felt really sad not to see him, you know, crashing down the alley on his big wheel and doing things like that anymore, because it had been such a sense of joy for him.
They were like this kind of cage in a way, you know, it was like literally like living in a cage.
I went to put him in elementary school, and they said, oh, he'll be in a special education class. I had to go to the school board to insist that Bill be in a mainstream classroom.
Bill had to learn, you know, to deal with the world as it was treating him, because he was a freak in the eyes of a lot of kids.
There was a kid who called him four-legged chicken a bunch. And so I chased him down and wrestled him and held him till Bill got there.
With Perthes, you know, because you have that sort of dexterity of your legs and they kind of work and they look okay, it's like somehow harder for people to deal with. Even with my disability, you know, kids calling me faker in the playground when I'm wearing like chunk of steel and crutches and running around, they're like still think I'm fake. It's alienating when you have a disability that no one else understands and that no one else has to solve problems for.
Bill was a provocateur when he was a month old, you know. He was never a person who was gonna just ride along. So he would sneak around without the brace and the crutches.
In my medical expertise as a third grader, I thought the brace should come off.
I began to play and to try and participate as much as I could, even though I was definitely limited, like, you know, king of the hill. I mean, every time I would climb up that hill, man, I'd get pushed the fuck back down, and I hated it. I would get so mad I would cry.
I mean, I would get calls from the neighbors. They would say, your little boy is jumping off walls with his crutches, you know, and he's climbing a tree.
The thing is, when you're a kid with Perthes, like, you can always be off crutches. Like, you can always stand up and walk around if you want. You can even run if you want. And that's kind of frustrating as a kid. Like, I know I could do these things, but you're gonna pay the price because you're gonna feel pain later, extreme pain. During your teenage years, your bones harden. And at that point, in terms of Perthes, whatever damage has been done to your hip is done. But if you don't feel any pain, you don't need to use crutches.
I remember coming home from school, and he was standing next to the couch, and he was like, "No crutches?"
I remember walking out of the hospital sort of feeling weird, like lighter. I really felt very strange with my arms without walking with crutches.
When you grow up always being, that kid on the crutches or that kid with something's wrong with him, and you get that moment to where you're just a regular kid, it's like, thank you. Like, I just want to just do everything. Like, it truly is an explosion.
Took me a good year to really get back into walking, and then there was breakdancing right there waiting for me. Went straight from like learning how to walk to learning how to moonwalk.
I remember they had a talent show. He was a freshman in high school. Bill would get out there and he was popping and moonwalking, and all of the girls in the audience went,
It was magical. The movement was magical, and my brother was lit up.
It's a beautiful day to go skating. Won't you shred? Won't you rip? Won't you skate your balls off?
They still were doing breakdancing when they went into the skateboarding thing.
And we just attacked the streets.
Oh, shit. Changed my life in one day. I knew it was like no going back.
Look what I did to my board. Oh, no.
That was just when street skating was coming about, like wall riding and rail sliding, but it wasn't like the rails yet. It was like more on the long curbs that would be outside the gas stations, and we'll just slide the whole curb.
Bill was the kind of skateboarder who, looked like he would probably sprain an ankle or break an ankle doing a trick and just figure it was the cost of learning to do that trick.
Young people are trying to fight the establishment of an ordinance that would prohibit skateboards in Pittsburgh business districts.
These skaters say their board is their transportation.
I work in Oakland, and I live here in Point Breeze, so I have to skate through Oakland just to get to work. And if they ban that, then I don't want to get a fine going to work.
You should get the footage of Bill getting arrested. He got arrested for skateboarding.
Get off my fucking Put your hand behind your back. Why are you doing this? Just get off my wrist, man. What the fuck? What the fuck is this, man? I'm just a skateboarder. I'm just a skateboarder. I'm skating down the street, and there's cops.
Then the cops threw him in jail, and it was all on the news, and he went to jail saying, skateboarding is not a crime.
Skateboarding is not a crime. Skateboarding is not. That was like the slogan. And, but actually, technically it was. I followed them to jail. Then they came out and we cheered like they were political prisoners being released.
What happened, Bill?
After that, they had his picture in Sassy magazine.
He became a big rock star to all the girls.
Like, man, Bill, you look cute.
Bill's situation with his illness, you know, that had been such a focus for our family that when that was gone, then Randy and I had to look at our relationship. It's the way life goes. Perfect storms every once in a while where everything just goes to fragments. I think Bill felt responsible for me and Randy getting divorced.
Me and my brother, like, we were very dependent on each other, and we were split during the divorce. My brother went to live with my mom, but I still had to live with my dad. And that was really tough.
Randy and Bill had a dynamic that was really, they had horrible fights.
My brother really started to get the brunt of my dad's hard-ass reactions to being defied. Bill often saw his art as a sword and a shield.
For Bill, his art has been very cathartic and has been shaped by whatever happened to be happening with him at that particular period in his life and his reactions to it.
Support the troops. Bring them home. I call the Pentagon's war. This is my body. My body.
Art was just the place I went. The place I went when I wanted to be on a level playing ground with the other kids in class. The place I went to get away from my family issues.
Everybody has that experience of suffering. But I think sharing the experience and understanding it as other people experience it is another step in the process.
Hey, were you sleeping?
No sleeping. No sleeping today, bud. It's a national unholiday. Wake up!
I remember there's one scene that, you know, everybody goes and does an acid drop. An acid drop is like an old move where you just like ride off a drop and you just drop down. I was just scared of it. Like, I didn't have flexibility in my right leg. Every time I would fall where my back leg would get pulled out, it was like horrible, excruciating pain.
When we were skating, we would just go, 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 and he couldn't keep up. And so it would be a question of, okay, do we stop skating or do we leave my brother behind?
Are you all right, man? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
I knew that my time, like, without any problems with my hips was already, those days were numbered. Just a matter of time. I knew that when I was 16, I was skateboarding. I'm like, this shit isn't gonna last. There's no fucking way. I better enjoy it while I can. And then it happened, and I started having really, really bad pain.
There would be times when he would just be like in tears from the pain. And I feel like I've seen the pain change him in his personality.
It was really, really, really heartbreaking to tell him that he had to go back on crutches. And for Bill, a bottomless pit of sorrow. He cried. We all cried.
20.
Go 20. Now, the other thing you can do is you can go down to the floor and come back up. So you have different ranges of levels of your movement. So, you know, you're standing here doing this. You open up, you start to step it around 2, 1, 2, spin. Like that. Keep going with your feeling, whatever your flow is. But then try to go to the ground. Go to the ground and do it again. And then come back up. Just do another turn. Yeah, so you go lower down. Yeah, good. Then come back up. Good. Come here, give me 5, man. You got skills. Okay, here you go, like that. Pop your chest out, roll it around. Then come up. And keep it moving, keep your neck alive. Good, yeah.
Question I don't think came up.
What's that?
What hip do you have it on?
I have it bilaterally. My right ended up worse than my left. Yeah.
Don't touch me.
So it started in my right and went to my left. So when I started compensating for my left with my right wasn't fully healed.
Oh, wait,
So I damaged my right more than my left.
No one told your thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take you for your x-rays, okay?
Okay.
And you're here today for your hips, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna be lying down on the table on your back.
Oh, it's cold in here. Do they have to AC it so much?
Yeah, for the film.
For the film, it has to be cold too? That's why it's so cold in these rooms.
You know, I've been wondering why the hell this room was so cold my entire life. Coming in here when I was 5 years old and just being cold, like all of a sudden it would just be freezing. I just thought, why is it so cold?
Like this machine in 1978. It just was like a monster, you know?
Back then, it was like the hole in the window was like a little thin little slat that they would look through, like it was a gun hole. They would speak on a microphone. Okay, now, we're gonna take the picture.
You know, Perthes disease, the big question is should he or shouldn't he have an operation?
So there's your right hip. Normally that should be a sphere within a sphere, a ball in a ball, you know, and that is a mushroom.
It's very confusing in treating Perthes disease because there's so many different options on just attempting to treat it, and there's no solid method of how to do things. And there's still no cure, and no one knows what's right and what's wrong.
So it's not always a direct correlate.
We've inherited a medical model of disability that assumes that when there is a body that doesn't fit a stereotypical abled body, that it is something sad or tragic and something that needs to be cured. And so you see that in Bill Shannon's life when people say, well, if you have this hip problem, why don't you just get hip replacements?
And you're doing pretty well, but it's going to go someday, and you're going to need a total hip replacement on that hip someday. Now,
The pain that I have is a constant adjustment. It's like always adjusting for it, different gradations of it.
Perthes disease causes quite a bit of damage. That dead bone, you know, it starts to flatten out and causes a lot of pain and friction in that hip area. And so that causes kids to limp, or you have pain after walking for a while or any physical activity.
I told my parents that sometimes it was like something was stabbing my leg because it got so painful that I felt like somebody was cutting my leg off.
The pain, it's really bad. It's like you kind of feel this grinding every time you take a step.
In the spring, I started having just a teeny tiny bit of pain. And in the summer, I started limping a lot.
Because you never know, like, whenever you want to do something fun, you can't, if you barely walk, you really want to do it. Somebody will have to take you, or you'll have to go on your wheelchair and do it, and that sucks.
Do you have any thigh pain?
Yeah, it radiates down to my knee.
that's part of it that people don't understand. Like, yeah, okay, my hip hurts, but does it hurt enough for me to go get surgery to replace it? And then how long does that surgery last for? You can, you know, get a hip replacement, and in 10 years, you're getting another one. And in another 10 years, you're getting another one. And after so many of them, you can't get another one. That's it, you know. You reach the end of the line. Now you have to fuse your hip, which is basically put it in one position and freeze it. And just like, I'm not into that option at all. I want to be, you know, responsible for my own fate.
And so I tried to use canes, and they were just useless. I mean, because when my hip really was hurting, they kind of didn't really do enough. And then when I was trying to be preventative and kind of not use them fully, but use them some, they kind of were in the way, because you can't really have your hands free when you're using canes. So I started using a single point crutch.
And then he started developing better tips for them. And then one day I saw the rocker bottom.
Well, those crutches were like no other crutches that you see, really, and they were legitimate crutches, but they were just U-shaped.
With the rocker bottom, you had the range. You know, you reach forward and you have that range around the curve, so you get a longer, smoother push. And that really made a difference with skateboarding. A doctor, you know, with no experience skateboarding would probably just look at that and go, this motherfucker is so stupid. Not realizing that with a hip like that, you take one push on a board and you just roll for like half a block. So you're actually saving your hip.
When we see Bill Shannon using a skateboard as a mobility aid, we forget that the mobility aids that we're more familiar with, like wheelchairs, came out of somebody solving a problem.
It's just creative necessity. I was looking at my childhood and how I was in certain situations with my peers where you had to come up with a solution now. That's creative necessity. It's like the necessary instant reaction, gut. You know, and that's a playground mentality. That's like on the street, and you have to come up with a solution in the moment.
He would use them to hit the ball, so it was like an extra appendage. He could really gain a lot of ground just by swinging when we were sprinting, and I think that might even been where the glide kind of came from.
With the camera lens, spitting the freestyle with my friends. Yeah, I'm making
They roll up like construction paper here. My crew, the Step Fiends, here we come 15 different clubs a night in New York City for dancers. Just underground shit. After hours in Chinatown, but it was like just dance, fuel, and you're gonna go dance all fucking night. There were no established competitions to go to. There were these circles, and people would battle.
There's styles clashing with styles, egos clashing with egos, you know, going at each other through dance, you know, as an expression.
Anybody that we didn't know, like, we were gonna throw some rounds. In that, there was a conversation, you know, but what if part of the conversation was like, back the fuck up, you know? No sympathy in a cipher.
Crutch knew where to go. Where the music was, Crutch would show up, just like we would.
I came to New York, and I had a little this and a little that, you know, but I didn't have any footwork for real.
He was still working on the movement side of it. You know, he wasn't as far along by any stretch. He was doing a whole lot of falling before he was flying.
The way he's able to navigate himself around on them crutches, that shit don't take overnight, man.
I started going out to clubs, and other people were dancing in the club, and I just naturally just started doing little moves like, fuck it. You know, and then I started going to hip-hop spots and like doing whatever the fuck I could do, what I could pull off of my crutches.
We would dance, he would come in, he would do a move, and if he didn't bust his ass, I would be like, yo, that shit was dope. And if he did, he always got up and tried it again. But there's no way Crutch got a pass. There's no way it was easier for him to get recognition or props just because he was on crutches.
Impress me. Please impress me. Now you got shit. You got nothing. No footwork. Oh, what's that? Style. Why you taking me fucked up because my and I didn't know that. I can walk a little bit, but I use crutches to dance. Let me apologize. I didn't know that was the case. I thought you were just doing shit, dog. I thought it was just style of Boston. I did not know. I apologize like a man, dog. Thank you, man. You know what I'm saying? That shit hurt my feelings because I don't have a choice, man. I have no choice, bro.
But when you first introduce something different, everybody isn't gonna just immediately start hugging you. Like, wow, that's great. They're gonna look at you like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, go home. Don't come here with that bullshit. Until I got good enough, until I got better.
Freeform fetish medicine for your headaches. We bomb fellas better sin for the medics. Napalm, telepath, tightrope walker. Stay on mellow ass white dope offer. Night stalker, Charlie Man's my man. Avid addict Mike Smoke.
When he's in it, let it go, because he's like, yeah, bring it, because you think I don't got it? Oh, yeah.
Rip them off and wax shit gets dissolved as the gift revolves around Earth space agent that'll rock your paw. Have you running for your grams, little baklava? Let me talk to y'all about some off the wall. Rapper wanna be in front of me that got the balls to not know who.
You know, how he would slide that before he brought it up and held it up for a second like. I've seen Shaolin monks with the sticks. And I gotta tell you that it's the same span of time he's on that stick and he's turning and putting moves in concession to make into a combo to a beat. This is Crutch Master, man. You know what I mean?
I thought I'd seen it all until I seen the UFOs, turtles, and body rolls on crutches. That shit right there is real.
I like his style, and I like the way he's aggressive. I like how he goes out there and hits his freezes on point.
This man right here is an inspiration for all dancers.
Y'all ain't seen this cat get down. Y'all ain't seen nothing.
You
know, a lot of people like obsess about, you know, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, all that stuff about not having the right body type to dance is all bullshit. Dancing, it's in your head. No matter how healthy you are, your body is limited. Once you get that through your head that your body is limited, that dancing is in your mind and not in your body, then you're pretty much free as a dancer. So if you're driven to dance, if your soul is of a dancer and you have a bad leg and you're on crutches, you're gonna dance no matter what.
It's 6:42 right now, and chances are you've never seen anything like this before. The show is called The Art of Weightlessness. It's sponsored by the Dance Umbrella, and Bill Shannon defies gravity with the help of his crutches in a unique dance performance. Bill, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here so early. I've never seen anything like this. I was looking at the videotape yesterday, and I was amazed, because when you start dancing around on these crutches, it is just like you have no weight. It's like you're light as a feather moving about. And it's sort of a funky dance routine, too. I heard one critic say that your hip is bad, but your hop is spectacular.
Yeah, that's a little, that was a little cute little title, yeah.
Bill had an idea of putting a couple of his old pieces together and create an hour-long piece.
The art of weightlessness, man.
Bill was on another level at the time. There were only 2 pioneering companies that was doing hip-hop dance on the concert stage, and he was one of them.
I was completely ignorant at that point to like what performance art was. You know, if you thought theater, I thought of theater. So I didn't think about theater being a place that we could like illustrate anything hip-hop. How can you bring something that exists in a circle, in a club, into the square, into the proscenium? Crutch's whole like approach wasn't just that he was bringing genuine hip-hop into it, but he was also bringing in like this abstract art into the space at the same time.
Bill had on a raincoat, you know, he came out. I had this rain sound effects, you know, on. Just trippy, man. I mean, this show is just like trippy, I'm telling you. I'm sitting there doing this show, and I was tripping, looking at it like, don't forget your cues, you know what I mean?
Politics, the current state of affairs, his background, all that stuff is put into everything that Bill Shannon does.
So much was happening with his career. It just got to be like one thing after another.
Hip-hop is, out of all things, it's very important to maintain your individuality.
My name is Jeff Grasso. I'm your host. This is fucking Love Letters. Welcome back.
The Guggenheim. I met Crazy Legs. I'm going to Kuwait. I'm going to Japan.
We went to France.
Look at this shit.
England. Scotland.
All the thoughts know what happened. Where's the passion? Rappers battling non-rappers, carrying on backwards, laughing, saying Nas Stacy's Farrakhan, preaching blackness. Hell yeah,
There were some good reviews and people really liked the work and, you know, all this stuff. But at the same time, the dance world, they were looking at it like, oh, isn't that cute? You know, he does the break dance on the crutches.
I've seen Crutch get angry. They keep asking him about his crutches and, you know, not about the artwork, the music, or the dancers. It was a lot about his disability, you know. It's kind of fucked up.
No matter how high you go on skills on crutches, there's still the baggage of a crutch representing failure that can trump your achievements.
Ready? Yeah. So tonight we're gonna see the two pieces that I choreographed for Verikai. Cirque du Soleil's Verikai show.
Just knowing that Bill had anything to do with Cirque du Soleil was just a huge honor that one of us made it. One of us did it.
So we're like really proud, but I don't think it was like anything that really shocked us so hard. It's like, it was almost like, oh, of course.
You're supposed to be doing that.
They contacted me after they saw my glide and they wanted me to actually be a performer in the show, like a main character, basically. But then I found out like what their artists had to go through.
I watched these dudes one night, and this guy was busting his ass.
I was worried about it damaging my hips or damaging the nerves in my arms for doing that much every day, the same exact thing. That just does wear and tear. And I said, I'll train somebody to do what I do and become a part of the creative team and do choreography.
Yeah. Hell yeah, bro. Nice.
He had to teach these gentlemen how to dance on crutches.
Vladimir Ignatienkov, 3-time world champion tumbler. Do a flare your legs out, both, yeah.
And also, he had to train several aerialists.
Keep going, keep your flow on.
I had these guys threading and TikToking and all the different sort of flavors of like boo styles. Then they had their own acrobatic moves on top of that. So it just looked really, really sick.
Beautiful.
The director wanted to put like an upside down wheelchair act in the show where there's like clowns in a wheelchair that flips upside down and the clowns fall out. And I was like, you're not fucking putting that in the show. Like I felt insulted literally because he was trying to make it into like a disability theme where my work was gonna be a part of this spectrum of representation of disability. And I was very uncomfortable with that. I didn't want to be a part of the disabled Cirque show. I wanted my character to be the one that flies.
want to teach people, they have to understand what it is you're doing, and the communication has to be the same. Otherwise, everything gets lost in translation. So when you develop a technique, you begin to codify a language for a particular vocabulary. You name it, you call it what it is. And Bill Shannon is doing that with the Shannon technique.
By him creating a specific vocabulary and naming it, it creates an awareness that those movements have been absolutely articulated. Like, it's a real choice of his body to go to a very specific place, and he can hit it every time. I was in the studio with him. We had 6 weeks kind of one-to-one mentoring, and I expected to be able to do things like that. And he just cracked up. He's like, "You've been trying this for 15 minutes. I've been doing that for 15 years. Yes, it was dance, it was movement, but it was this thing that absolutely exploded the preconceptions that I even had of what dance was. Those are the respected art forms or genres in dance, are the ones that have technique. One, it puts itself in that frame and says, can it deserve respect, and it is learned and it requires discipline, but it also feels a little bit like a little fuck you to that system at the same time.
Yeah, let me hear it, New York. Come on, raise the roof up, come on, here we go. All right. Let's get this started on the right note. Yeah!
Sketchy. He definitely stepped it up after coming from Cirque.
1, 2, 2, 2. There's a sketchy attempt at bringing hip-hop to theater. Ooh, nice, D. It wasn't necessarily that the moves were sketchy, but having hip-hop in theater at that point was a sketchy idea to people. So there's like a little bit of sarcasm behind it, which, if you know Crutch. We finally had a little bit of money behind it, and so we were able to give a little bit more to like costumes. He was incorporating so many things that aren't even typical in hip-hop, you know, like slow motion capture.
What I did earlier was air flares. I'm gonna try to do 10 of them.
Hype him up, what? You wanna see it again, what? Come on, are you with me?
Sketchy attempts, trying moves that you don't necessarily know that you can land. You're never gonna see that in a contemporary show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You can feel people like the energy, like, oh, please, you know, like you can make it. The crowds absolutely loved it. There's so many people in New York that came out to see us that we grew up in the clubs with, and I think it was their first take at ever seeing us in theater. It was like we just won a contest somewhere, like a battle. And like everybody was just so fucking thrilled to see it happen. Like I wanted to clap, but I'm like, yeah, we did it.
What, to add another character to his repertoire? Did you read that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she started out with the axe. Is a
What are you
real
gonna do?
person with pretense of being, oh my God.
With pretenses of being what?
A contemptual artist. Conceptual, I'm sorry.
That's not very nice.
I'm upside down.
Well, you either are or you aren't.
Right?
You can't have
you
a
don't
pre.
have the potential to be.
You don't have a pretense about it. You either are or you're not. You know. And so what she's saying is I'm not, but it's just like I don't know. I want to send Crazy Legs to review a ballet show. Okay. That's what I want to do, and he'll write for the New York Times.
They're used to seeing one thing one way. Like theater to them is supposed to be the old-fashioned way, or what they see as hip-hop, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Any dance critic that comes to my work does not know what I did. Like ballet is well documented. Modern dance is well documented. Like I'm out here pushing the boundaries of a form I've invented in ways that are completely like invisible to someone who's just looking at me.
What's it feel like to read a review like that?
It's a feeling of being profoundly misunderstood.
For a beginner, this is how you learn to balance it. That's how you knees, low, point, be like, I'm going.
How to use your muscles, girl.
That was Bill. Go on, buddy. Where you coming in? Oh, great.
All right.
While I was here, like, I was retouching some part of my childhood and revisiting that part of my life. And I don't know, my dad, during the time that I had my disability, was going through a lot of emotional healing from his own childhood. And so I think a lot of the brunt of that was taken out on me. I was the oldest. And that's really hard because I have to think, like, my own relationship to my own kids is so different. Like, I never raised a hand on my kids. And my dad didn't know any different, you know? So, I don't know, it's just hard to imagine.
Bill had told me he met somebody who was pretty smitten, you know, kind of like really kid in a candy store kind of smitten.
Bill was, you know, he's cute. He was very different from me. We met in New York, and he likes to tell the story of us being in the opposite sides of the tracks, because I was in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn, which was, you know, brownstones, and at that time, he was in Red Hook, which was down and dirty.
They were both like these salmon, just swimming upstream as hard as they could. I mean, you could just read it, like from a mile away. It's like, this is it.
Uh-oh, is the lip coming out? Look at the lip, it's so cute. Wait, where's the lip? There it is. Give him the lip. Give him the lip. Oh.
After Sketchy, everybody goes on their own path.
Oh, watch out!
Watch out, Eo.
Crutch did the last thing you would expect from Crutch. You know, he's like, I'm moving to Pittsburgh. Like, he's growing his own food and vegetables and has a car that runs off like fucking potatoes or something. That's Crutch, you know? He goes back to a more refined Crutch into solo work. Back into his like organic interactions with people or the reactions to Bill, you know, doing his thing, going through the street.
It's fucking raining, man. Come on, we gotta get started here. What's going on? What's taking so long? Hear yourself.
So I met Bill at school, the Art Institute of Chicago, in around 1993. And I actually remember him. You kind of can't not remember the way he looked. I was like, damn, this kid wants attention, right? Like really bad.
You know, I think being a public spectacle as a child, going to demonstrations in public throughout my whole childhood, and then being into street skateboarding and breakdancing, and just all fed into like, I'm just a performing artist in the street. It feels natural to me.
In Chicago, we shot on some really nasty, bad cameras, man. It was all noise. Just like hidden camera guy in the corner or whatever, like off site where you can't see me spying on innocent people. You know, he's getting tangled up on the street, he's getting caught in a door, he's just falling down, and he's got crutches. So then, somebody will go to help him, and then he'll just make them fail in helping him, which is kind of a sad place to be, you know what I mean?
Like once the reemergence of my disability came back in my 20s, I was like dealing with the same expressions in people's faces again. And it was like a really old memory. It's like a very old memory to have people treat me the way they did.
One of the most difficult things about the transition from the status of non-disabled to disabled is figuring out how to manage the awkwardness of encounters between themselves and non-disabled people.
It was like a turning point where I realized that I have this relationship to the public doing tricks on crutches, and that it's not all like, look how cool I am on the crutches. There's all this other stuff happening, and that I had not even begun to deal with it. And that was the beginning of that journey.
It's provocative. You're taking advantage of people's good nature. I think these are good people that care. But I was often in the position of helping him when he needed help. So I know what it's like to be the person who's reaching down to help somebody up who may or may not need it. So I identify with both sides.
What happened in that performance, it's so interesting, was that my skateboard was there, but the sidewalk had a slight incline to it. And so the skateboard just rolled out and went into the street. A cab crossed 3 lanes to run over the board on purpose. Now, mind you, I had no money at that time. I was on full scholarship at the Art Institute of Chicago. I had no real job. My family doesn't have money. Plus, I no longer had a way to get back to the train station and back to my house, which was like tons of distance. I mean, it was a long-ass way. I had to walk all the way to the train. And I was just miserable, and I started crashing to the ground. And people were coming and helping me. Instead of being like, no, I'm not gonna let you help you, I just started hugging them. And I would be hugging like 3 or 4 people at once. And they would all be lifting me up. And they'd lift me up and stand me up. And instead of rejecting them, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just accepting this. I was just really upset about my situation, but also just everything that has happened. It was like I was just surrendering. I realized I don't really want to mess with people. I just want to express these feelings and these ideas.
You know, I imagine that people might be a little upset by that. Some people are, like, how could you do that to people? Like, isn't that mean? Come on, there's at least a couple people in here who think it's really mean. I want to know who they are. I think you're awful. Okay. This guy behind you here? I think it's kind of manipulative. You think it's what? Kind of manipulative. Ah, okay. Well, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit.
You know, like regarding the fall was a question, and some of the questions were asked in a wrong way, and that there are failures to it that happen. In order for me to dig further into it, I had to go down paths that were dead end. And out of that mistake came the concept of neutral palette, which is that you never see me like just all out and out fall.
Bill realized that he was in some ways being manipulative of people because he was putting them into a crisis moment. So he decided that a better way to continue to investigate, because he was very interested in how people were responding to him, was not to present himself as something flashy that would very obviously draw attention.
I mean, this shit is just beyond like reasonable. I mean, it's almost like so strange. Number one, for him to do it. Number two, for me to accept him doing that. You know, it's just, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, he actually fucking gave me a drink of water. But at that point, I had surrendered myself to whatever other people thought I needed. And this was like probably the height of that, of somebody actually feeding me. Like that is just, that really gets to the core of help. You know, you will have people who will, you know, try to feed you in your real life and you'll be offended. But in your performance, you embrace it and you try to understand it. It's like, I am out there interacting with phenomena that extend throughout my whole life. And the people that are representing those phenomena are individuals, but I don't look at them as good or bad people based on how they act. I look at them as individuals that manifest phenomena that occur to me whether I'm performing or not.
The phenomenology of disability that Shannon explores comes out of an experience of repeated patterns of interaction. He sees the same things and experiences the same things over and over and over again. That's burdensome, but what it also does for someone who is as thoughtful as Shannon is it pushes him to want to name those things.
Imagine I get up, I get dressed, I go outside, I throw on my tunes, jump on the board, and start to like bop down the street. And as I go down the street pushing on my crutches, everyone turns to stare.
A lot of people stare directly at me, but even more people turn after I pass. So I continue on down the block, and a car pulls up. Hey, cool, what do you call that? And before I could even answer, the car's gone. I get to the bus stop, I sit down. A perfect stranger comes along, looks at me and says, sorry. And then another person comes and sits down on the bench. And then the guy looks at me and goes, hey, what happened to you? And I'm like, what happened to you? And he's like, no, I mean the crutches. And I said, everybody has crutches. Some of them you can see, some of them are invisible. He goes, come on, man, what happened to your leg? I bet it was your ankle. I broke my ankle once. And he continues to tell me his whole story. Then the bus pulls up. The bus driver opens the door and says, hey, come on, buddy, I got you. You can do it. I get off the bus, and there's a store. I'm looking at the store, and I realize that the thing I need to get, there's 2 places that sell it, and one of them's maybe having a sale, and I can't remember which one. And as I'm standing there, I notice there's a woman holding the door open for me, waiting for me to go into the store. But I'm still trying to decide, and she's holding it longer. And she's looking at me, and her face changes. Are you coming to the door? And I get this little bit of a backlash eye roll. But I go into the store anyway, and I find the item I want, and I go to the register. Cashier says, hey, man, did you break your ankle? I broke my ankle once. And that's just one day. It's not even a whole day, it's just one errand. And these things all are cumulative. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year after year.
Disability always demands a story. Non-disabled people are never required to give an account of themselves in the same way.
What happened? Yeah, I was born with disease. It's a really long story, but my head's not round. Really? Yeah.
Most of us simply learn to manage this. We have a standard answer, we get it out of the way, and we move on. So that he's turned this into a performance piece, into an art form where he evokes this question, this interrogation, is absolutely brilliant.
It's a language, and it's a tool, and it's a way of seeing, but it is not a sort of guidebook to do's and don'ts of dealing with disabled people who need help. What I actually encourage is to abandon assumption.
Get down to the studio at the Opera House because there's an amazing performer from Brooklyn coming out called Bill Shannon. The night's called Spatial Theory. It's had rave reviews.
You know, that I was doing these performances where I was having these interactions with people based on their ideas of who I was. People were responding to it, you know, interested in it. It became a necessity to communicate it to audiences.
So welcome to this evening's presentation of Spatial Theory. Okay, now I'm gonna sit down and talk a little, go over some video of some street performance work, where I perform simple utilitarian tasks in public and sort of begin to look at people look at me. So I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna pick up a bottle. I'm just gonna pick up this bottle in public, and it's a utilitarian task, very simple task. And you're gonna see, this is me, I'm the hero, this is the villain, right here. And that's a random babushka from a Russian marketplace. So here's the reach for the bottle, which could be like the initiation of what I call projected narrative. So her story about me picking up the bottle is like way deeper than my own story of me picking up the bottle, which is basically a high mid, low mid split reach. She's looking at it like, will the man pick up the bottle? I cannot go on to my destination until I know if the man will pick up the bottle. Now, if you watch the purse area here, you're going to see this height of the conflict reach a cataclysmic point. Watch the purse here. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. Oh. A psychosomatic reaction to the height of the arc of her narrative.
And what I've noticed in this next little moment here is what I call fate of distraction. at the top of the stairs, state of distraction right here. Whoa. Okay, when it happened, I was like terrified. I was like, oh no, she's going down the stairs. I can see my good Samaritan impulse. I mean, I'm ready to like dive down after her. So I'm not like out here just like accusing people of like being stupid for trying to help other people in need, because I do it myself. And then there's this final reckoning, you'll see it here, this look of like, right here. So he's like, I almost died looking at you.
I think Bill understands people's reaction to disability more than most people do. And he knows that he's being misunderstood. And he can reach in and like, boop, here it is. You see that?
So this next relationship I call peripheral fluctuation. So peripheral fluctuation is the kind of thing where your periphery is like right here, right? Like you can see my field of vision. Then you have like peripheral over here, right? So then as soon as my periphery starts to move toward a full field of vision, it's like peripheral fluctuation. No, I wasn't looking.
All of those things were things that I could recognize in my life in different ways. And like, oh yeah, I do that, or I know that. And yeah, that's not understood by everybody.
This next relationship I call gesture of help. Now, gesture of help is very different than real help. Real help, like put me over your shoulder, carry me up the stairs. Now, gesture of help is like, I'm gonna help her help me up the stairs. Now, normally for me, I go like up the stairs, but she's going sideways. I'm like, where are you taking me? I'm going to another dimension.
People who haven't experienced these interactions, people who move through the world with sort of ordinary bodies, don't necessarily understand what Bill is talking about. But it's that intervention with the video technology, that's when people get it.
People say, they'll write about me, Bill Shannon, he's this great dancer, and it's too bad that, he tricks people into helping him on the street. Or he does things where he falls to the ground so that people help him. So it has this sort of notion that I'm getting people to do these things, as if they don't do them already. No matter what I'm doing, they're doing it.
What's it for?
It's a trio of video projects called Window, Bench, and Traffic. And those projects are my sort of way of addressing a basic problem about dancing in the street, which is my dancing in the street is never seen by audiences. It's only seen by people who happen to be there.
He could have just kind of gone down some easy route of making some really entertaining dance shows. People would love the sort of flippancy and the superficial level of the virtuosity that he has. And he didn't.
The mad scientist in him is brewing something. He's just, brainstorming for his next big form of expression.
Moving into a series like Window, Bench, Traffic solves one problem that Bill had when he was doing his click and point edited video talks, and that is that people could see him picking and choosing, which in fact he was. He might have captured 4 hours of film and found the 3 seconds that really illustrated his point. And people might say, well, there's a manipulation that's happening there because you're freezing, you're stopping. Does it really unfold that way? Well, let's find out.
There's a fabric, there's a social fabric, there's a landscape of gazes and approaches and subtleties around how humans look at each other and pass each other and the body language and the patterns that take place. And I really wanted to prove that the spectacle is there. I don't have to use anything. It happens no matter what I do, whether it's my real life or I'm in a performance.
Window was people would be viewing the performance through a window in a building on a square. And then the audience in the window would see the performance not only directly, but also through the camera so they could see up close how people were reacting. It's an extension of his own investigations into how people treat those who are disabled. And we often don't know, until we see it on screen.
Bill realizes there are two different audiences. The people who have been watching see a guy who's clearly capable, whereas people who have been walking by, what they have is crutches equals fragile. Everyone who sees that thinks they know what they're seeing, but they are interpreting it so differently that it's like they're two different realities.
Bench was before the time of the GoPro. He attached cameras all around him to give a 360-degree view.
I remember doing the 360, suitcase thing. The hidden cameras were a way to get an honest reaction.
Everyone would see all these reactions behind him, his wake, basically. People literally stop on their tracks. That happens all the time.
Stage it in the middle of the back.
Traffic, we put that on wheels and it becomes a lot more elaborate.
The audience boards a bus. There's a DJ on the bus. The DJ would pipe music that Bill could hear and that the audience in the bus could hear too.
He took his audience into the street, dude. He took his audience on a goddamn ride. And I was on the bus like, dude, this is fucking genius. It was so cool, it was so exciting. Like, you really felt like you were with him.
It's interesting enough to be called art, but it's got this, spectacle, showmanship kind of quality. And you're not looking at the Empire State Building, you're looking at somebody who's living art.
Hi. It's hot out today, right?
To figure you out with the crutches and this.
Yeah?
How is this?
What? How is what?
You ride on this, and what do you do with these?
With these, I flap them. I try to get air. Like I go like that. Like it's like they catch air, and then I can kind of fly.
You need a parachute.
I need a what?
A parachute.
I do need a parachute. Thank you. You too.
Flap your wings, Crutch.
Traffic is so spontaneous that we get to see not only those disability phenomena, but we get to see relationships develop on the spot.
Oh, no, please. No, please. You first. I gotta go that way, and they're in the way anyway.
Or what? Or what? Are you okay? You need some help with those papers? No, you're okay. All right. What happened? Sprained your ankle. Oh, that's a good guess, but it's not my ankle. All right. Are you all right? What happened to you?
That's failure. But even when I fail, I try to keep it smooth. Yeah, I'm cool. I look good, don't I? I look good, right? On the ground. Huh? Yeah. I don't really need help, but if you want to help me, you can. Okay, you want to help me? All right, cool.
Here we go, Shannon.
I don't need this help, though. No, listen, I don't need the help, but I really appreciate it. Okay? All right, brother. Thank you, brother. Huh?
Your handicap on your foot?
It's my hip isn't round on both sides.
Oh, I didn't know that. I would have picked you up. I thought you just playing, man.
Well, it's both, actually. I'm playing and I have hips that aren't round.
Yeah.
So it's in between, you know, it's like wearing glasses. Like when you take them off, you're not blind, you know. Like I can walk, but not very far.
I respect that, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I got tons of respect for you. Just your whole vibe is just amazing, man. What's that?
Taking a donation.
A donation? Yeah, sure. I love donations. Oh, man. Wow. Thank you, sir. Wow, that's a blessing right there. Yes. Hey, respect, man. That's the street, baby, right there.
You watch people and the reaction to him as a person being on crutches, they automatically assume that he needs help. When in fact, he's helping them help him. And he's been able to take that and turn it into something magic.
There he is. Wave, everybody. There's one.
There is a section of traffic where he is on a staircase and he is clearly acting as a performer. He is dancing, he is twirling, he is performing in a way that lets us know that he has exceptional abilities. And then into the frame walk these two men . And they step in to offer him this help, but what they do is completely disrupt a moment of pure performance. That's the power of the habits of interpretation we have. It's so abundantly clear that these guys have no idea, and they're acting on assumptions that don't fit the situation. There it is. And the audience gets it whether they have any background or not.
And now listen, this is really, really important. Be yourself. Be yourself. Don't fake the funk. Be you. That's how this happened. You think everybody was like when I first did my moves on crutches? You know how bad I looked trying to dance on crutches the first time I tried to dance on crutches? You want to see it?
Yes.
Want to see what it looked like in the beginning? This is what it looked like in the beginning. And then I started to do one of these. I started to go whoop, boom, like that, and then whoop, boom. And then all of a sudden I was like down here. And the next thing you know, I was doing this, huh? And then I said, hey, what do you want to do? So this camp is very special. It's special to me. This is the first time I've ever met any kids with Perthes, so it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I really am touched to be invited here. And I wanted to thank you all very much. And you know, I support you and the parents here and the struggles that you go through and the tough choices you have to make every day. You know, you live with this and you struggle. And you know, I feel you. I feel your pain. I know my parents had to deal with it. And so I just feel really blessed to be here, and thank you so much, all of you. That's my heart.
There's a necessity to capture moments in time, an importance to recognise somebody that created his own art form, that didn't attempt to be anyone else, didn't attempt to dance like anyone else. Somebody that absolutely personified the potential of his own physicality.
I think he represents hip-hop and he represents skateboarding, and he puts them together in a way that is a one of a kind.
Look at that shit.
Our general response about people who use crutches is the story that to use crutches is to be miserable, to use crutches is to be awkward, to use crutches is to be pitiable. And his performances re-script, re-narrate, retell every single one of those stories.
He's an agent provocateur. That's really the essence of his character to some extent. It's like, oh, you think so? I'll show you, you know?
He's brought so much to the world because he has shared and taught. Let's learn to question the assumptions that we bring and let people teach us about who they are.
So good. What he's doing, I don't think people have caught up to that yet, man. And when they finally catch on, he's like on to something else. And I think that's the way great artists should be.
There's the dangerous world of inspiration, and there's a dangerous world of inspiration porn that we talk about now, of particularly non-disabled people looking at disabled people and going, oh, that's so inspiring. I'm not here to inspire you just by my very being. But I'm okay for you to be inspired by me if you change.